I did it right this time.
We're back. We're back.
We are back. First show of 2024.
Awesome. Excited, man. You staying warm, David?
Yeah, the cold that's up there where you are right now has not hit us. So, and when it does, it won't be as bad. You're like, what did you say? You're at 11 degrees or something?
Yeah, currently at 11.
So
it should be single digits by tonight, and we'll see.
Oh, wow. You're gonna let the faucets open, let them drip.
Yeah, you got to do the whole shebang, right? And then say a little prayer to the gods.
Yeah. Light a little candle for the Aztec god of frost. Yeah, so that he won't be like screwing your plumbing up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean,
privatization of the electric in Texas. We'll see how that goes.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I don't know if there's been any sightings of Ted Cruz leaving for Cancun, pero no me sorprendería. That guy, he like the first sign of danger, he runs for the hills. What about your holidays? How did they go?
Pretty good, man. We stayed in, and keeping busy. A lot of great projects, and the horizon for Chispa. We're excited.
Yeah. You've been writing a lot, man. We've got so many new things coming out that we've got to get off the ground. That our writing and editing never ends.
Yeah, so we're excited, man. Especially, we got the Dusk. We got a date for it, and so
right. The floppy issue number 1's coming out in May, right? And then the graphic novel drops in June. That's going to be really, really cool.
100%. Yeah.
Alex Segura has just done an amazing job with this story of a lawyer turned vigilante. Really, really, really cool. And of course, we're continuing to roll out the 13. Cloudbreak is out at the end of this month, and then next month is Fluorescent, and we have the team behind Fluorescent number 1 with us tonight. I'm super excited to chat with them. And we have our new Black Demon Tales miniseries starting in February as well. Black Demon Tales. That's starting in March, rather. Descent, right?
Descent, yes.
Yeah, and February is the graphic novel for Black Demon Tales Emergence.
Right.
Previous miniseries. So yeah, really, really excited about that. We're going to have our Thanks Romina graphic novel dropping this summer as well. And the thing that I'm most excited about is the things you've been working on, and that's Words of the World, right? And you're working on issue number 1 that's dropping in August, and I think people are
right. Yeah, it's been exciting writing it, especially being kaiju fan, hardcore, and so it's definitely striking the balance in a it's a story for everyone too. And so,
sure.
And it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great characters, a lot of great Easter eggs, connections towards other parts of the Chispaverse.
Yeah. I swear people are going to lose their mind, I think, over this Black Demon Tales miniseries and how it links into the Words of the World. It's really, really, really cool stuff that we've got lined up. Have you seen Echo yet? Did you get a chance to see the
Not
show?
yet. It's in my backlog, and so I heard some great things. I saw your post, and it was pretty awesome. There.
Yeah. I mean, there is a homegirl from the Rio Grande Valley who is in a couple of the episodes. Let me see if I can remember her name or look it up really quickly because I think it's really, really cool. She is from Edinburgh. Her name is Danny McCallum, and she plays the role of Tuklo, who's one of Echo's ancestors. Right. Because I think that one of the really coolest things that happens in the show, I think there are 2 things that I really loved a lot about that resonated with me in terms of like what we're trying to do with Chispa and with the Chispaverse specifically, and that is they grounded Echo in her Choctaw heritage and the community there in Oklahoma. Yep. Almost all the episodes are set like nearly entirely. There's some flashbacks or like scenes in New York City, but for the most part, it's there. And her identity has a direct impact on who she is, who she decides to become, going from kind of like a henchwoman, rather, I suppose, hench person of the Kingpin to being something a little bit different. And that's inspired by her family. And the name Echo then takes on a very distinct meaning because it's like the echoes of her ancestors, specifically women from ages past that are alive in her, that take her on a different path. And oh man, it was so rewarding to see that, to see a show grounded in indigenous identity and in community, and making that be like the most important thing for her. So I can't wait for you to see it. I really want to know what you think. And
yeah, that's exciting. I love the fact that they've, those writers have definitely have their foot within the community, and you don't want to say they're taking a risk, but they're actually being bold enough to make sure that representation is there.
Yeah, and I mean, and Disney, we'll be honest, Disney has hedged its bets. It dropped all 5 episodes at once, so there's not like a drop off from one week to the other, and it gives less time for people to build up controversy or whatever. But, and I guess shortened, originally it was going to run longer than 5 episodes. But I was satisfied overall with the show, and very happy with it, and hope that it appears to be gaining the critical recognition that it should. And I mean, I also love the fact that for the role of Maya Lopez, the character of Echo, they have actually gotten a deaf actress who is also disabled, has a prosthetic leg, to play a character who has those characteristics. I mean, just that was just wonderful, because so often you get like a non-disabled actor playing a disabled actor, a disabled role, and that's there are plenty of really talented disabled people in the world. There's no reason for us to so
able-bodied folks,
we don't need able-bodied people need to probably just stay in their lane. And so we want to have a chat about our next hero, our next chispa, and I'm really excited about this particular one, Fluorescent. I always been a big fan of heroes who are able to communicate with plants or things like that, right? And I know that with this character, we just wanted to find like a different way to approach that,
right?
And just so people kind of have an idea, Hector, about like the way we do this. When Hector and I create the characters, we do create the bare bones so that their IP that's controlled by Mucho Mas Media, the parent company of Chispa. But then when we bring in the first writers to write those characters, because of how much they're going to be world building and creating, those writers, although they're not like credited as co-creators of the characters, do have a special role going forward in that the writer and illustrator will be forever like attached to that character in terms of like film and TV development. They will be involved some way in those interpretations of the characters down the road, and because we do appreciate the work that goes into being the first people to write a story about a character in an IP. And so I've tried to find, I've written IP before, and I know how odd it can be. And so I wanted to find a way to bring those creators in a little bit more. And so it is nice to be able to have them flesh out the characters and come up with ideas and storylines that are unique, and bringing on people like Héctor and Jimena to bring their unique skills to this. So I say we bring them on. Let's chat with them.
Yeah,
we can talk about them all day, but it's so much easier if they talk about themselves. So we'll bring them on one at a time, and then we'll start asking them questions. First up is the writer, Héctor González. He is a non-binary Mexican speculative fiction writer living in Austin, Texas, who uses he and they pronouns. They often explore traditional Mexican cooking as gateway narratives on their Instagram, which is at Mexicanity. I never had to say that out loud. We'll show the handle in a little while as Abuelite Héctor. And I think that he may be like a year younger or a year older than me. I can't remember. We're about the same age, but I will still see them as my abuelite. At least to my grandkid Coyo, they can definitely be abuelite. Héctor is a member of the Mexicanics Initiative, which was founded in 2016 by John Picasso to promote creators of speculative works who are of Mexican heritage, and I also belong to that group. Their stories, poetry, and essays can be found in several online and print venues. So let us welcome to the stage Héctor González. ¿Cómo estás? Qué bueno verle.
Saludos, Tocayo. Saludos, David. Hello, everyone. I'm also used to warming up over here. It's trying to stay. The best way to stay warm is baking. So I made some banana, a mix of banana and brownie muffins that I'll potentially use to snacking little here and there. Okay, but very happy to be here with everyone. Thank you for having me.
I'm happy to have you here. And if people who are listening on the podcast won't be able to see this, but you must have warmed up your apartment pretty well because you also have a fan going above you. It looks like so. I've done
just moving a little bit the air. Mostly that's one of the tricks in this.
See that's something that I wouldn't even think about doing. That's smart.
It's all that baking, that heat, right?
Yeah.
Hey, the house smells delicious, and that's one of the important things.
Yeah, I wish that there were like a smell connection on this platform where we could like smell what's going on in your house.
Yeah, soon.
But maybe Jimena's got like a gas leak in her house or something like that. Speaking of Jimena, why don't you introduce Jimena Sarquiz to our audience?
Yes, sí, con mucho gusto. Jimena Sarquiz is an illustrator from Mexico City. When she was a kid, a teacher told her she would never be a real artist because all she could make were cute doodles, bonitos. Despite that discouragement, she has worked in children's illustration and comics for almost 20 years. During this time, she's created art for textbooks, picture books, and graphic novels for a host of publishers. She also has a passion for teaching and has given classes in digital illustration for the past 10 years. So, fellow educator, como todos.
Hey, Jimena.
Hey, Jimena.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're really excited. And this is like the first time we get to meet you. I mean, we exchanged a lot of emails, but, I've known the other two Hectors for like forever. And so it's nice to be able to talk to you in person. Well, kind of in person, remotely or whatever. So okay, well we're gonna dive in and ask some questions. Héctor, let's kind of. What do you say we like switch it up a little bit? Like in the past, we've like asked a bunch of questions of the writer and then another illustrator. Let's just go back and forth. I'll ask one of the writer and then you ask one of the illustrator. We'll go back and forth so that they're not just sitting there listening to each other.
No, totally.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, Héctor, in terms of craft, what challenges and joys did writing a comic script present for you? Because I mean, you've done all kinds of other creative work, from cooking to writing poetry and stories and essays and so forth. But what about comic book writing? Tell us about that experience.
So it was interesting. It was something that I had some vague ideas because collecting comics for years, I have always loved finding some of those paperbacks that, besides having the comics, at the end they had some of the scripts, and seeing how they started little by little going with each one of the panels and describing them, how to express the ideas that you have in a way that it is very understandable for the other people working with you as a team. Not only the artists, but also the colorists, the inkers, the letterers, having a very, sometimes it can be nebulous, or sometimes it can be a little bit more attentive to detail. I did not want to be very type 8, like the scripts that you hear from Alan Moore, that just one page, it's just about an 2,500 words essay. No, I wanted to have something that it also allowed the artist to have the freedom to say, oh, this is another thing that I want to say or do or think with these kind of things. And honestly, because this is my first comic work specifically, I try to just learn, especially from some of the basics. I went to my local library and started looking for all the works for Scott McCloud, which surprisingly enough, that was one of the most curious things. None of the copies in English were available, but the copies in Spanish were. So I managed to get that as a plus for me. I also managed to get some works from other comic creators that I enjoyed a lot. And let's see, there is especially uh, one by a queer writer that I admire a lot. That she decided to create her own take on how to write comics, but from a point of view where it was not so much centered about action, but more about how can you represent certain things that it could be emotional. What kind of elements can you do to convey how they are feeling? And it is that piece of advice that Guillermo del Toro gave, especially for script writers. You do not. I need you to be more action oriented, but also at the same time give me what kind of actions or elements are conveying that kind of emotional path that the character is having. It is kind of show and tell, but giving it the preference, giving it the more power to say how can you represent that feeling on a way that it's an action that people can identify with. So try to play a lot with that, and hopefully the readers will be connecting with that.
Cool. Thanks. Hector, you have a question for?
Yeah, so with the connection. So I know that you've had some creative works within the your love for food, and as well as cookie poetry. So what kind of influence did you bring that towards Florescent?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask a question of.
Oh, so I would say one of the things that I especially think a lot, it's whenever you are, especially in poetry, some people say that you are creating an emotional state for the person that it is reading it, trying to identify and connect with something that is deeper. Sometimes it could be a very clear statement about the person. Sometimes it could be a very allegorical element. I try to marry those two parts, especially with the kind of influence that we have for what's the connection with Daniel de la Rosa, that it is the name of the character, Florescent, and how these powers are, where are they coming from? I think that there is a lot of poetry and beauty about where he's coming from. He's a San Antonio kid that is living with his dad, and he's working, especially just doing odd works out of a House Depot, of course, no, not any other brand. And on the day of his 18th birthday, starts finding something different happening to him, and I wanted to convey some of that beauty of what was happening, but at the same time, the emotional turmoil that he had, that in many cases he felt ignored about that important day. If for his dad it was just another working day, for him he felt that nobody cared about that. And there is that moment that I wanted to give that emotion, that trip, that also connected with some of these other elements about how he wanted to be seen. And that's one of the things that I love in this case, because I think that he's at the end of the comic, he's seen and he feels that he's on a different path.
Awesome. Excellent. So question to Jimena: how was your artistic process like when it came to the sequential parts of creating a comic book?
How? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because
I was like,
because he did. I mean, he did a lot of work to create the script, and I'm hoping that it worked. I hope you got it, and you're like, oh, okay, thank you, Hector.
Well, I did get like a lot of information from Héctor, and he was like very good at sharing his vision for the story and for the character. And then on my part, immediately I started like reading, and I could like see who these people were, and like I even like they reminded me of like people I knew. So I called like friends and asked them to like send me pictures from when they were like 18 years old. And I used that to create the characters. And just from there, I started like laying out the story, trying to portray like this like emotional journey from him being like kind of depressed, feeling like removed sort of from the reality he's living, and then like ending with this story where he's like fully connected to everything, like he's more present and his environment, and he's just like his posture, like everything about him changes, right?
Right. You see that physically through the as the pages evolve.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, like you can see. I mean, I love the art in this comic so much, Jimena. You did such an amazing job, and like the emotional reality that he's going through is, comes across so well in his posture and his expressions and so forth. And then, I mean, I don't know, was it a challenge for you to go from that like real world, like really grounded representation of characters inspired by actual people to doing something like this, which is so much more, mystical, all of the stuff that is in like this kind of vegetable world, or like the prehistory of the world, back before humans existed. All this really, really great world building that Hector brought to it. Did you find that challenging, or was it like fun for you to explore those spaces?
Oh, for me, it was like an amazing opportunity, because I don't regularly get to like mix like it really like helped me connect with like the love I have for mythology and history and like traditional clothing, like all of that, to be able to like mix it into this story. It really made it a lot more fun for me, because actually for me, like the more grounded scenes tend to be harder, because I tend to get like a lot in my head about it feeling authentic. Like I want it to be very like respectful, and for it to feel true to someone living their life as someone with Mexican heritage living in the States and growing up there, and what kind of like I wanted that to feel authentic, even though it's not my experience. So I get more in my head with that, but like the magical stuff, I can just let my creativity just like
Pregunta Jimena. So, what was your influences, your artistic influences? Obviously, we love the art. I love how clean and it's very approachable. The bright, vibrant colors, setting the mood. And so, what were your influences artistically to your art style?
They're a bit all over the place, but I'm, especially for comics, I'm really like into cartoons and just the way like storyboard artists try to like set up their the story in a more dynamic way. So I try to like apply those lessons into comic books, and like I feel like I'm still learning and trying to get better. But I like really like like cartoons, like from like Cartoon Network cartoons and like some animated movies. I'd like follow a lot of like storyboard artists,
Right.
just for how they set up their scenes, and I draw like a lot of inspiration from that. And then the rest is I really take a lot of I take a lot of inspiration from like the real world, but the very particular, I always say like most of my art is pretty grounded, but my way of seeing the world,
Oh yeah.
like I have like a hard time like sometimes not seeing things as more magical than they really are. But still, like most of my inspiration will be like I'll see something like I don't know, like I live near a mercado, and like that fruit stand, like sometimes they have their the lady, sometimes her daughters are there like playing, and you'll see like later in some illustration I will like draw them, just because I remembered from that time I saw them playing there.
That's adorable. I love it. I love the idea of groundedness, but allowing yourself to ground things through the lens that you use to view the world, because otherwise everything is kind of homogenous and monotonous and overly realistic. And so I mean, for a book like this, and a character like this, that kind of lens is really, really important.
The chart is awesome. Plant puppies, like we should.
So yeah, those of you who are listening on the podcast won't have seen the images. We've been showing some of the pages from the interior of the comic, and the one of the, I guess this is actually the last page in the book, is a full page splash of Daniel with his plant poppy shirt, which we just have to make. I don't know why we haven't already.
Hey, copyrighted there, like that's.
Yeah, it's. Well, I mean, it's in the comic, so
it's in the book. Yeah.
Yes. Copyright.
That was very important to Héctor that he had that shirt.
Yes, I do seem to remember that being really important. So, and
I want to give a special shout out to Jimena, because besides I just love what she did with the characters and every one of them. One of the elements that I also have to say is that she's very respectful about the art of everybody else. And one of the things that she did, the character, one of the guides, Nochtli, she has a whipil with a special pattern, because she has heard so much how other people, especially colonizers, we know who they are, they end up stealing the designs of traditional artisans in Mexico and then just repurposing them for their shitty merchandise.
Yeah.
Jimena created a design entirely for that wipil that that one of the characters is wearing. And one of the small projects that I'm having is that I'm getting uh, my embroidery kit just to pretty much start trying to make that as a pattern, because I have that very, very clear. I want to make that clear, and on the times that I have just my downtime or for just listening a podcast, I'll be just like the classic abuelita, just making that, because first, it's beautiful. Second, the respect that you have for other creators, I I fully admire that, and thank you, because
it would have been easy,
I couldn't
right?
have asked for a better artist. Seriously.
Yeah. No, you did an amazing job, Jimena. We can't possibly praise you enough, and that kind of integrity that Héctor is talking about is really important, because we're all on this series working with characters who are sometimes really adjacent to our identities, or sometimes a little bit different, and doing it respectfully is just the only way to move forward, because on the team there are people who are Afro-Mexicano and indigenous, whatever, but like sometimes we may be working on a particular thing where there's not a close correspondence, and just showing that respect is really awesome. And in fact, I mean, if you can imagine, if these Karens that you're talking about, who like make their way down to Chiapas or to Quintana Roo or whatever, and they're like, oh, look at this, oh my god, look at these designs, oh, and then they like just take photos and they like just reproduce it. If instead they were like to talk to these weavers and these artisans and create like some kind of business proposal and include them in the process, and share that they could be bringing those designs into the US as ambassadors, as partners. There are ways of doing it that are respectful and that allow the artisan to profit as well from the work, right? Or don't steal their designs, and be inspired by that kind of a thing to come up with your own. It's ugly what people do in this world. So yeah, I'm super delighted by all that. I want to show the cover, Héctor Rodriguez, if there are other questions you want to ask him while I'm looking for the.
No, see, to Matokayo, from your own personal experience, what influence did you bring to Manuel?
Daniel.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel.
He's gonna like wheel plants against you, man. You can't be getting his name wrong. De repente los nopales te van a salir por todas partes.
But especially like when Daniel was in the car and he was putting, it's the girlfriend question. It's like, and it's like we all been there. It's like it's what kind of situation brought you that influence? It's like it's put in the corner of of some of your own sexuality. Like
let's just be straightforward about it. You're non-binary. You're queer. To what degree did like your own queerness influence your creation of this character?
Yeah. I'll say that in the future of the character, I can see the queerness included on this thing, because a lot of nature is very queer, and it's very the ideas of gender. It's something that we have applied to them, but I can see that little by little, while he continues his journey, he may have a different kind of idea of what kind of gender expression he wants to have, and what kind of designation he will have. I thought a lot about that. On part of experiences that I had, when I arrived first to the United States, I initially thought that I would be working doing computer development software, something that I thought that I was an expert in living in Mexico, but all the certifications that I had meant nothing when I arrived here. So I started working with some relatives that they were working on landscaping and everything, or as they call it, limpiando yardas. And one of my first jobs was going to a golf course and then pulling weeds, cleaning the area, mostly for the people to continue just playing golf. And I had multiple other experiences like that. I also, when researching this, although I live in Austin, San Antonio, it's a city that I did not have the chance to enjoy so much. So I traveled for a couple of days. I went to the pulgas, I went to the markets, I went especially to the different community gardens that I knew existed in the city, and started seeing the kind of efforts that they had. And to me, it was beautiful how communities get together
Yeah.
to create something that it is a way to be independent, and also connecting with each other about how they want to grow as a community. And yeah, for a long time, I also worked with a local farm over here in Austin, and I have that connection with the beauty of and the excellent produce that you can have on your backyard. And it is completely different from everything else. One thing that I have to say, that farm completely ruined carrots for me. I cannot have regular carrots anymore because nothing compares to the sweetness and the tenderness that I had with those carrots. It was out of this world. So going with the kind of journey that Daniel has, it's getting into this world that it's people that are more connected with Earth, and he's starting to discover that kind of connection. With me, it was also a little bit of that kind of path in my life. I thought that I was straight for a long time, but I had these kind of flashes of who I am here and there. And only about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to come out with my family, and thankfully they were very welcoming. And I'm I think that I would like to also, with given the chance, explore how he connects with other things, because for him, it is connecting with nature, almost one community, one location at a time, and being able to do more with that ability to obtain power from these environmental plants that are lending him their abilities. And with
And
that kind of experience, will be in the long term, hopefully.
I do love the fact that you emphasize lending him their powers, because that's one of the things that you and I talked about early on, that that you wanted to make sure that he wasn't just manipulating plants.
Yeah.
That plants needed to be asked permission. They needed to be, like like there needed to be like agency on behalf of these plants. I thought that was such an amazing way of reconfiguring this kind of character. I've put up on the screen for people who are viewing, and if you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see it, but it's the page on our website for this first issue. Daniel de la Rosa hates his birthday. It's a day that serves as a stark reminder of how much he hates his dull, monotonous life. His 18th proves no different, when his friends mock the shoes he wanted, get drunk using his birthday money, and then, once one of them gets dumped, start destroying a community garden. Except Daniel can now hear the plants pleading with him to save them. Armed with new possibilities and new ways to bring people together, Daniel will need to figure out if he can be the right kind of spark to heal rifts between people and plants. And that is, it's like a really startling way of reconfiguring the relationship. And, we're dealing with a world in which climate change is causing so much destruction of our environment. And last year was the hottest year in 125,000 years. It is just, it's like a really, really startling thing. And so I appreciate what you did there. Jimena, here's this awesome cover that you did. To this day, it's like one of my favorite covers for the 13, just so full of color. And there is this expression on Daniel's face that blends kind of like the essential goodness and innocence of the character, but also with his like strength and connectedness to plants. And it's really hard to capture like complex emotions like that. And I think you did a really great job.
Yeah, it's definitely in the eyes with that cover.
Completely agree.
And it's just, the translucence. I don't even, how did you how did you accomplish this? The image seems translucent. Like I'm looking at like the juice from the tunas that are like is coming off of his hands, stuff like that. It's amazing.
Yes,
What program?
that one. I think I did that one in Clip Studio,
Okay.
and I don't know. Like from the beginning, I knew that I wanted the concept of, like, for me, the most powerful image of the book is when they offer him the fruit, because it's like, I don't know, like it's an archetypical story where he's gonna like gain knowledge from the fruit, but it's also like, for me, it's like what they were talking about, like consent, like how he is not just the typical hero where he's disenfranchised, and so powers get dropped on him, and he's like immediately his life is fixed because of it. And it's not like, the story's not like that at all. It's like a moment of like him, like, why me?
Yeah.
You know, like, am I worthy? And but then like the moment where he decides is like him, like that is the real change, like he deciding he's worthy of a different kind of life, and that is what that scene represents for me. And so I wanted it to be like full of like the magic and just like the imagery of the nopales, just because that's his nickname.
Yeah.
And just I wanted it to be like full of like glows and magic, just so you know that this isn't just some ordinary fruit, that you know that this is a significant moment.
Yes.
Sacred, communal moment for Daniel, which is like it was brought up. Yeah, it is something very distinct with the character that is not like any other character. I mean, you can bring in like other characters like Poison Ivy where they use nature for their own gain. Other characters that it's what and them on top of nature. But this relationship with Daniel in nature is communal. It's out of respect, and so this is why it's a very unique character.
It's a little bit closer to like, well, I mean, although it's very different also, but a little bit closer philosophically to like Alan Moore's take on the Swamp Thing from the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, but at
Not
the same
gonna
time,
lie.
yeah, I know that
Not
you're
gonna
Alan Moore
lie.
fan.
It's I thought like, oh my god, these are big shoes that I need to kind of follow up, but I thought a lot. It's not exactly following up on what Alan Moore did. It's his work I admire. He's one of those writers that creating an impact on me. But I thought, what else can I give to this kind of element? And that also helped creating this world building that I have about it, that there has been different ages. There was an age of the waters, there was an age of the rocks, there was an age of the plants, then there was the age of the cold-blooded, and then there is our age of the warm-blooded. And there is also, I thought a lot about why would at one moment plants would be okay with us eating them. And it is part also of that kind of understanding of which are the ages that have gone through everyone else. So to me, it is, I thought about how can I make this make sense for this character. And little by little, that world building started to come together and getting explained.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's that wonderful splash. There's that wonderful
yes.
splash panel that I showed earlier on where Jimena has the kind of like shamanistic character, and those angular kind of panels where where she's throughout the entire thing, but each one is a different one of those ages that you're talking about. It's just like so. Oh my god, I want a poster of it hanging up on my wall. It's easy enough for me to do. I don't know. I haven't done it yet. Jimena, you do illustrations for picture books as well. Is the process a lot different between the two styles? Doing sequential art and doing art for picture books? Do you have a preference for one over the other?
I really I like both for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sequential art because I like to tell stories.
Mhm.
And it feels like I get like more of a chance to get like to convey certain feelings that it may be harder to convey when I'm doing just one or a couple of images in a book.
Yeah.
But then in picture books, I like that I can like spend like a lot of time with the image and just like the overall look of the image. So they let me explore different things. But generally I like to do like all kinds of jobs just because they let me like explore different aspects of my personality and just like not feel like I'm just doing the same thing or being the same kind of person at one time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense to me because that's the way I feel about writing across different genres. I mean, yeah, I can't imagine just writing in one and like being stuck in that. And there are plenty of publishers who would prefer because it makes us more like easily marketable for them. But I think that all of us here like to work in a variety of different media and doing different projects, which kind of brings me to the question of what you two are working on right now. ¿Cuáles proyectos tienen en mente o en los que están trabajando? I'd love to hear a little bit about your plans.
Jimena, you first, please.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm currently working I'm about to start a textbook project, but other than that, I've been taking scaling back, taking some time off to do some personal work because I haven't really had time to work on on personal pieces for my portfolio. Like most of my portfolio was client pieces, and I was really disconnected from who am I and what do I want to explore and what do I want to express. And so I've been doing a mentorship program for this. I've been doing this artist program where I'm taking where they've suggested prompts of what I like things to draw, and they asked me oh, why don't you do a illustration with a Hispanic hero? And just that prompt turned into a whole idea. I made I have 3 sketches for the illustrations that I'm gonna make, and it's a whole story of this boy named Diego who is who finds a jaguar mask, and that jaguar mask turns him into a nahual.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just working on those pieces. And then I also with my mentor, I talked about how I love they asked me to do a small comic like a couple of sequential pieces, and they were like, "Oh, maybe you should explore like nonfiction and do something in about music or like a historical figure." And I wasn't really feeling it, but it made me realize that I really like athletes. So I pitched like a couple of athletes, and I focused on Lorena Ramirez, the Raramuri long distance runner, because I really love like this YouTube clip that I saw once of like somebody offering her like Nike or like some like brand tennis running shoes, and she was like, "Oh no, those are too uncomfortable. Like I like my sandals. That's how I feel comfortable running." And just like her being like really proud, like just like rejecting this like narrative of, "Oh, you poor person of you poor person of an indigenous tribe, that you don't know what running shoes are. That's why you're running with sandals."
Yeah, and with their sandals, everybody else, right?
Yeah.
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 Antes no
So
llega Nike a las montañas. A ver, vamos a ver estos guaraches, a ver si podemos sacar una edición con la marca de Nike. I mean, because they would, you know, like investigate it, research it, and like, what is it about these guaraches that are making these people run so fast when it's like more than that? But,
I think there are too.
Mm-hmm.
you know, Jimena, that is an amazing. You know that there would be a publisher in the U.S. that would snatch up a picture book about her like that. I'm just saying, girl. Think about it. U.S. publisher biography of this runner. It would be an amazing book. Yeah, just throwing it out there, putting it out in the universe.
Yeah,
well, hopefully one of these ideas that I'm working on, I can turn it into an actual book.
Yeah.
Once I finish like
exploring the visuals, yeah.
Exploring these concepts.
That is so cool.
And that's pretty much all I'm working on right now.
Yeah, and then like the textbook is the thing that's gonna like pay your bills, right?
Yeah.
I hear you. No, I totally hear you.
Tocayo, what are you working on?
Yeah.
So one of the blessings and also curses of being an adult ADHD enjoyer, it is that I end up having like 100 ideas all the time, but I'm trying to be more focused and concentrating on 3 at the moment that I'm giving it a little bit more attention. One that I do not know if it will be a children's book or even a YA novel, but imagine a kid that her dad, it's one of those publishers from all these kind of these tabloids that are saying, "Oh, we saw the chupacabra or the Yeti is over here and everything," but he knows that he's selling bullshit. He's selling just all kind of fake stuff. But the kid, she's able to see all this kind of fantastic stuff, and she's aware of this vast world that there are aliens among us that get drunk on mouthwash. There are these there is the real chupacabra that it is not like everybody portrayed him. He's just so offended that everybody puts him like a small lizard when he's something completely different. He has interactions with ghosts, and it is just the best way to put it. It's imagine that the dad is Scully and the kid is Mulder.
Mm.
And that's the kind of the shock that you have between the generations, that one of them is seeing all this wonder while the other one is very not exactly jaded, but it is more about, well,
profiting from people's
profiting from that. So it is a different kind of take. The second idea that I'm putting a lot of emphasis, and I think David will like this, it is not exactly a reply, but it's more like not a parody book, but I would say it's my view that the American version of American Dirt, that instead of having somebody coming from Mexico escaping from narcos and everything like that, that with very racist tropes, it is a couple of Americans that are escaping from Portland because they do not like how they are living there and they are moving to Tulum. And
To
it is
Tulum?
all kind of ignorant and racist and terrible takes that I will have to reflect on that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do
That it
is
is just,
all you do is like go to Tulum and like just listen to people in any
yeah,
restaurant, and you can have like your dialogue right there.
exactly. And that's the idea that it's the title. I'll leave it for later, but it is just about also a take on the title of American Dirt. But it is mostly
It has
a
vulgarity.
very strong take about it.
It has a vulgarity in it, doesn't it? The second word is more vulgar than dirt. I'm gonna guess. I'm just gonna go on a limb and guess.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I'm just playing a lot, it's a comic that it is about a Latino superhero, but the idea is that it is more about someone that it is not following that hero path, that it is so popular, that it is not seeing their powers as a way to advance themselves, but mostly they see it as a way to understand others, and fighting, it is not what they do. They see it mostly as a way to kind of defend or last last option, the whole thing. But it's thinking a lot about the superhero tropes that are out there and how they can be so easily diffused or changed about the whole thing. And the whole idea is understanding how these tropes have been perpetrated, and how to see that, oh, so this can be so different if we decided to do this and that.
Yeah. I love the idea of using, superpowers
Hmm.
in ways that are completely unexpected. Because we just always assume that somebody's going to be heroic with them, but that's not necessarily doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Neither heroic nor villainous. They could be something totally different. That does sound really interesting.
And it's kind of ridiculous because I will be using a lot of people that at some point it will be one of the most common tropes is that, oh, this person got bitten by a radioactive X, and then he has the problem, oh, he got bitten by a radioactive giraffe, so now he has the powers of a giraffe, and just start thinking about that kind of things and all that. And of course somebody will ask, oh, so did somebody ever got bitten by a radioactive spider? Yeah, they did. What happened to them? Oh, they had an allergic reaction and died.
You can make all kinds of like really interesting commentaries on the existing superhero tropes. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's been really, really cool talking to you. And thank you so much for taking your time out to sit down with Héctor and with me, so that people can get to know you a little bit better. And I really, really recommend that they keep their eyes out for FLORESCENT, which is dropping at the end of February. As we get closer to it, there will be ordering leaks and stuff like that. But I can't wait to hold it in my hands. It's a beautiful, beautiful comic with really amazing art from Jimena and a great script from Héctor. Thank you so much for all your hard work, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and to reading your other projects as they come out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Muchas gracias.
Bye, everybody.
Gracias.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Mucho.
Adios.
Adiosito.
Bye-bye.
Héctor, that does it for us for today, man. We got through another one of these. We are going to have another podcast on the 28th. However, we don't know who we're inviting yet, so
it'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise. I probably should have just like pretended like it was a surprise guest the whole time, but I'm just I'm too pendejo for that. So we'll figure out this week who we're going to invite, and it'll be somebody cool. So
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
2 weeks, tune back in.
All right. So
stay
tuned for Chispa.
And stay warm, brother. I know that it is cold out there, and everybody needs to just try to stay nice and dry and warm. Take care. Cuídense mucho.